Welcome back to the Roy Works channel. My name is Jason Roy, and in today's video, we're going to continue work on Ned, the CJ2A project. So I originally intended on doing some welding today. I wanted to actually weld this bracket on the other side so I could get this body mounted on the chassis. But I found out that I actually ran out of welding wire. I was doing some work on the tailgate and found out that I ran out of wire and also ran out of gas. So I'm gonna have to get both, but I haven't been able to get there before they close. So I figured, what could I do for a video this week? And there's nothing that I like more than watching Will It Run video. And I figured you guys have never seen this run, so I figured I'd see if I could get it started today. So what I'm gonna do today is just temporary. It's not the permanent wiring harness, obviously. It's a little sketchy, so don't, think this is how I typically do things, but I wanted to just get it running. So starting with this sketchy setup, I'm using the bumper as my dashboard, and I got an old switch at Shane's house that was buried in the ground. So I'm curious if it works. So I wired this up with just regular wire. I went from here to the starter, from this post to the battery, and this one to the ignition. And so I'm gonna wire it as basic as possible and just see if it'll run. How do you like that setup for the gas tank? That's just temporary. So like you've seen on my previous videos, I've been having some issues with the starter, and I'm actually debating on whether to convert this to a 12-volt system. But until I decide, I'm just gonna use the 6-volt. I took 6-volt system. I took this battery out of the FC, which is a 6-volt battery. This is where I ran the, remember, this isn't how I'd typically wire this, but I just wanted to make a quick connection. This is my line going to the battery terminal on the switch, and this is to the starter terminal, and I also got this one going to the ignition. So I did have a problem with this seal leaking right here, but I ended up getting some cork material and cut out a new seal for this, and it appears to be holding pretty good. Make sure it's in neutral. Seems to be turned over pretty good. I'm gonna just see if we have spark. We do have spark, so that's good. So I'm finding that this is turning over really slow. I know in past videos I've had problems with this starter, and I'm actually really debating whether to convert this at this point to a 12-volt system. I feel like I'm definitely gonna go that direction because I haven't bought new lights yet. I haven't really bought anything. And this would be the time to convert it if I'm gonna convert it. So I think I'm going to go that way just so I can have a 12-volt battery. I just like that way better. I've ran into a couple issues with my FC where it runs low on charge from sitting, and I have to leave it on the battery charger. I have to get it so I don't have a 6-volt boost type charger. But I really would like to get this running today. The great thing about these old Jeeps is that on the main flywheel, there's a keyway that you can connect a wrench and manually turn this over. I don't have that wrench, but what I do have is the Super Hog, and I fabricated with an extension. And I fabricated from an old drill bit that I had. I had an old dull drill bit like this, a self feeder. So I cut the bit off of it and left just the shank. And I took a socket and actually put it onto that shaft. And I took my grinder and I made 2 notches to be able to receive that keyway, or for this to be able to receive that keyway. But very important, if you decide to do this, put the sloped edges on the back. Don't just cut a slot and expect that you're gonna use that because that's very dangerous, because what can happen is once that motor starts and it's in this locked in position here, if you do not have that so it breaks free, you want it to push actually off that keyway. If you don't have this sloped edge and you just do a notch, that will twist around as that motor starts and it will spin as fast as the motor spins, and it can really hurt you. So if you decide to do this, I wouldn't recommend doing this. I would get the correct one, the one that you use by hand. But I like to do it this way because it's a little easier, and when this hasn't been ran for a while, it gives me a little more chance to build compression in the motor. So I'm going to give that a shot. And like I said, I don't recommend you doing it this way, but I'm going to do it this way because I know the dangers, and I'm very protective of myself in this situation. So let's see how it goes. One important thing that you gotta definitely make sure you do before trying this method is always make sure this is in neutral. These don't have neutral safety switches, so once they run, they're running. Once they start, they're running. So you definitely don't want this in gear. In front of this, and this starts, it's gonna roll right over you. So definitely don't do that. Well, this hasn't been the most epic will it run video, but at least it did run. So I'm pretty happy about that. This has been sitting for a little while, so I was curious how it would start, and it started relatively easy. Thanks for hanging out with me in the garage today, and on the next video, I'm going to work on getting this body ready to be mounted permanently onto the chassis. I have some under the body work, so I'm gonna probably roll this chassis out, lower the tub down, flip it over, and I'm gonna do a little bit more work to get those panels ready to be finally set on there. But thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you on the next video. What do you think? Would that make a good gas tank?